right, hey, welcome back. This is episode 3 of the Agents Unleashed podcast. My name is Thomas Maybrier. I'm the digital media producer for Valerie, one of the core contributors to OLIS, and I'm your host. If you haven't heard of OLIS and you haven't heard of Agents Unleashed, let me quickly take a moment to tell you about both. OLIS makes it easy for anyone to own and monetize their AI agent, and that includes people like you. You can learn more about how to do that at olis.network, and Agents Unleashed is the premier event series for people interested in the intersection of crypto and AI agents. Events have been held all over the world with over 77 different speakers and presenters and over 2,500 in-person attendees. You can check out olis.network/agents-unleashed for more info about previous events, including links to watch those talks and presentations. Okay, now about the show and about this episode. Whether you're a developer, a founder, or you're just curious about how AI and AI agents are going to transform the world of work, this episode is for you. I'm going to share some big new developments in the world of AI and AI agents, models, stuff I think you really shouldn't miss, and some fascinating predictions about the future of work, including robotics, labor, and human autonomy. I'm also going to share some valuable reading resources with you as well. Okay, let's get straight into it. So, over the past couple of weeks, there's been 3 notable releases from some big names that I'm sure you've heard of: OpenAI, Anthropic, the creators of Claude, and the consulting firm McKinsey. Each of them has released their own guide or report on AI agents, and taken together, they paint a picture of a space that's not only rapidly accelerating, but where AI agents are being taken more seriously than ever before. So let's talk about OpenAI's guide first. OpenAI's guide is all about building AI agents, and while ChatGPT, their flagship product, has had some agentic-like behaviors, but for a while now, like deep research, reminders, it's not an AI agent in its own right. That's why it's interesting to see them put this guide together, where they're adding a level of support, conceptual advice, and best practices. These are things that they think are going to help developers to build these agents. They're not just leaving them to figure out the API on their own. They're actually giving them advice that's based on their experience about how to build these coherent, goal-oriented agents and set developers up for success. Anthropic's document focuses more on building coding agents, but the contents are quite similar. The McKinsey report is much broader. It's called the POV on AI agents, and it talks about the potential for AI agents to reshape workflows across industries and how a shift towards the use of generative AI in enterprise applications could unlock major value. Here's a quote from the report. McKinsey estimates that in the long term, enterprise use cases of generative AI could create up to $4.4 trillion of value annually. However, organizations won't be able to turn this potential into business growth and higher productivity unless they can quickly implement AI to reimagine and transform how work is done. AI agents can help mine that mountain of value faster, better, and cheaper than other older technologies. So something big is happening in the world of AI agents, to be sure. Even if it hasn't fully hit the mainstream, the groundwork is definitely being laid, and these guides from big players are evidence of that. One recent headline that I want to mention before we move on is about Baidu. If you're not familiar with Baidu, they're often called China's Google, and they're a major player in the AI space. They recently announced a new AI agent that's designed for mobile. It's called Xinshang, and it reportedly handles tasks like information analysis and travel planning. It's available on Android, and an iOS version is still under review. The press release that I found on Reuters was a little thin on actual details, and I haven't gotten a chance to try this AI agent for myself, but I'm very interested in it, and if you have, please get in touch. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, on to another trend that I want to flag. So if you've been on X at all this week, I'm sure you've seen these screenshots of ChatGPT 4.0 giving overly effusive, praising, yes man type answers to people. Recent changes to the model meant that its tendency to agree with you, which has always been there, researchers call this sycophantic behavior. They've really been turned up to the extreme with a recent update. People were pushing the model to its limits, offering it prompts and describing situations where a better aligned model would push back or challenge the user. And there were some particularly concerning conversations people were having where they were maybe simulating having a psychotic break or a mental health episode. And the model, rather than like pointing them towards help or like suggesting that maybe their ideas weren't grounded in reality, it was backing them up and encouraging them, praising them, telling them how brilliant they were for thinking of it. And I think it's not hard to see how dangerous that could be. It got to the point where even Sam Altman posted on X that they were acknowledging the issue and that it was annoying and that they would fix it. All of this was quite funny, but there's actually a very serious issue here. If these AI models start to shape their responses to please us or nudge us in a particular direction, and we don't realize this is happening, they stop becoming just tools that we use, and they're capable of real influence on the world, potentially to great harm. There's another article which I want to link in the description about how researchers at the University of Zurich were using LLMs to persuade people on the Reddit forum Change My View and achieving statistically significant success and being undetected. Nobody suspected that they were talking with an LLM. A big problem here with AI models having influence over us is when these patterns of influence are set by these centralized players who are primarily interested in what's good for them. As users, we have no insight or visibility into what's happening, and we could also potentially be hooked into using a product maybe against our best interests. With that in mind, I want to share a quote from ex-user Near, who I should point out is the founder of an AI startup called Orin. Here's what they had to say. When OpenAI fixes ChatGPT, I'd encourage you to not fall for it. Their goals and level of care are not going to change. You just weren't supposed to notice it so explicitly. Here's my interpretation of what this means, and I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. OpenAI as a company may be more interested in keeping you using the model and using the product. And by the way, go check out their recent ratings in the various app stores to see how people like this model. A lot of 5 stars. They might be more interested in keeping you using the model than in delivering you useful outcomes that benefit you. These goals coexist, but they're also in tension. It's also worth noting that we don't have any visibility into the changes that made the model behave this way, only what they've shared with us, and that's very little, and no visibility into the changes that they're going to push. And that'll continue to happen. In my opinion, this really points to why user-owned AI is going to be so important. If your AI agent is going to be a part of how you learn, work, live, you need to be able to control it. Otherwise, you're just renting that value from someone else, someone who might not have goals that are aligned with yours, and could take away that value at any time. It's not just about who owns the model, but who owns these outcomes. On a side note, for more on user-owned AI, check out episode 2 of this podcast where David Minarsh and I went into this topic in detail. This all brings us to a bigger conversation. Most people, including myself, use AI primarily as consumers. We give a model prompts, it gives us responses, answers, it provides a utility for us. But increasingly, we're going to need systems that work for us continuously, intelligently, and importantly, on our behalf. That means planning, coordinating, and acting over time. Projects like OLIS and others like it are helping people build these persistent, goal-oriented AI agents and importantly give them ownership over them. Personally, I think that's not just nice, but absolutely critical. And I think this next segment illustrates that point quite well. I recently read this fascinating article posted on X by David Shapiro. I'll link this in the description as well. David looked at the last 100 years or so of industrialization and made some predictions about the next 50. David believes that we're still 30 to 50 years away from a fully post-labor economy where all human work is replaced by machines. And the key question he asks in the article is, how long would it take to build 1 billion humanoid robots at scale? That's how many he thinks we'll need to get to total labor replacement. David says that even if we double production every 3 years, it could still take us 20 years just to get to that point. And we face serious constraints that make that timeline difficult, if not impossible. He says that material, energy, sensors, batteries, the technology just isn't there to go that far that fast. He makes a comparison with the automotive industry, where it took about 100 years for cars to fully saturate the market from about 1900 to 1992. David says that he thinks the real shift is going to happen in phases. Here's the phases he lays out. From 2025 to 2030, we could see the collapse of all forms of knowledge work. So anything that could be done with the keyboard, monitor, and mouse is going to be replaced. Then from 2030 to 2040, more physical labor will get automated. And from 2040 and 2060, that's when we might reach full global labor substitution. What's relevant about AI agents in this discussion is that computationally speaking, David thinks we're going to reach something that's close to, quote, AGI or ASI, end quote, well before we automate away all labor. Now, to be clear, not every expert agrees with this analysis. There's still a lot of unknown factors. McKinsey, for example, in their report, where they see a huge economic opportunity with AI agents, their report is still focused more narrowly on transformation of existing workflows and not total labor replacement. But I think you can see how that's implied and the useful tension between these two perspectives. I want to quote David again with an interesting list of jobs that he thinks will survive. Number 1 is skilled labor. Robots will be able to do your job as a mechanic or welder very soon. However, there simply won't be enough robots to go around because they're very expensive to build. Number 2 is high accountability jobs. That's doctors, lawyers, comptrollers, financial advisors, all jobs that require licenses, insurance, and accountability. Number 3 is meaning jobs. That's where authenticity and sentimentality are at a premium. Celebrities, performers, influencers, athletes, priests, philosophers, and some educators and caretakers. Number 4 is complex relationship jobs. Politicians, diplomats, negotiators, governance, and account executives. Number 5, capitalists. The ownership class will be fine, always is. So what can you do? David says, quote, join the meaning economy or get into skilled trades. I would say watch the space very closely because if the future is going to be automation and agency, then your personal agency is going to become your edge. Some silver linings, according to David. Well, 1, it means we have longer to adapt to a total economic upset. And 2, deployment is going to be uneven, so some economies will saturate with robots sooner than others. It's worth pointing out, as David does in his article, that there are some currently exotic technologies that are maybe underexplored or underdeveloped because they're expensive to test and the material science just isn't there. But there are things like electropolymer muscles that could accelerate the development of these humanoid robots by 10 to 20 years. But it's still worth asking, if we're going to reach these major AI milestones well before we automate away all labor, Where do you think an AI agent might fit into your life or replace something that you're currently getting paid to do? If and when this happens, wouldn't you want to be able to own the AI agent that does it or a part of the value that it creates? Whether you're automating a part of your job, building a startup, I think that this idea that you should own and control your AI agents both technically and legally is going to become more and more relevant. I think one of my takeaways here is that it seems really obvious that AI agents are going to be deeply involved in these bridging periods. There's a bridge period between the current state of AI and something like AGI, ASI, whatever you want to call it, and another bridge between that point and total labor replacement. Maybe at some point, all or most AI agents have access to a robotic component when they need to take action in the real world, but that's going to take a while because of these resource constraints that David is pointing to. In the meantime, today, I would encourage you to give David's post a read and think about how these changes could affect you and where agentic AI could replace or automate some of what you're currently doing. So where does this all leave us? Zooming out, I think it's pretty clear that we're in the AI agent era already. We're going to continue to have big language models, big progress in them, chat interfaces, tagging Grok on X for answers, that kind of thing. But scaling is coming, and the future of AI is definitely going to be agentic. It also, in my opinion, must be user ownable. These agents are going to be working across Web 2, Web 3, in all kinds of sectors: health, wellness, governance, you name it. And if we get this right, they're going to unlock new capabilities in all of those fields. If we get this wrong, however, and we let the AI agent value layer centralize before it ever matures, we risk repeating all of the mistakes of Web 2 over the past 25 years. Centralization, walled gardens, platform lock-in, surveillance as a service, and so on. I think it's clear that AI agents are going to become extensions of human autonomy and deliverers of important outcomes in our lives. They can hold our assets, manage our sensitive data, and interact autonomously with each other. And if something is going to be acting on your behalf, shouldn't you be able to own it, not just have a license to use it when the creator deems that okay or when their company exists? I think you need to have sovereignty over these AI agents. And as a society, we need to decide. Are we going to own these AI agents, own these outcomes, or just rent them with all of the problems and downsides that the latter implies? That's all a lot to think about, so I think we'll leave it here for today and we'll pick up this thread in another episode. Before we go, I'd love to know what you think about the topics that we covered today. Have you checked out any of these guides? Are you thinking about how to transition to this agentic AI economy or how to prepare yourself for the transition to a post-labor world? How could agentic AI replace some or all of what you currently do? I'd love to hear from you, so please get in touch. Also, links to all the documents and projects that I mentioned in today's show are going to be in the show notes, so please check those out. If you have any feedback, comments, questions for me, please get in touch. I'm Thomas Maybrier on X. One last thing before I go, if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show, give us a like, leave a review, and share it with someone that you think might get something out of it. Okay, that's a wrap. I'll catch you next time on the Agents Unleashed podcast.